There are many interesting stories and dramas about how James Gunn took over DC, how a decade-long universe was shelved, and Gunn decided to start a brand new DCEU. Let's deep dive and understand how it all happened. WB wanted to launch their connected universe with Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern, but that went horribly wrong. Finally, it started in 2013 when Warner Bros. Decided to reboot Superman with Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. After the end of Nolan's Batman trilogy, DC was searching for its identity. Marvel had already built a billion-dollar empire with a connected universe. DC had iconic characters but no clear path forward, so they handed Superman to Zack Snyder, a filmmaker with a very specific, very serious tone. Man of Steel was different. Gone was the bright red and blue Superman, known for his warm smile and heroic deeds. This version was quiet, conflicted, raised in fear of the world, and reluctant to be a symbol. When he finally embraced who he was, he ended it by killing his enemy to save a family. People had strong reactions. Superman seemed more concerned with aura farming than saving people or buildings, and Snyder took every opportunity to make him strike those cool, godlike poses. It split audiences right down the middle, but it made money, and Warner Bros. Saw potential. Instead of building their universe slowly, they accelerated. The next step wasn't a solo sequel or another superhero origin. It was Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. The title alone said everything. This was supposed to be their answer to Marvel's massive crossover success. But Snyder wasn't copying Marvel's tone. He kept pushing mythology, symbolism, and a darker take on superheroes. Batman was older, violent, and traumatized. Superman was still wrestling with his place in the world. The film was packed with major characters, from Wonder Woman to teases of Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg. But this time, audiences didn't just divide, they straight up hated it. The tone was heavy, the pacing was dense, Batman was killing, and Superman was still aura farming. The theatrical cut was criticized for feeling choppy and rushed, thanks to studio interference. And though the extended edition was later praised, but the damage was done. WB panicked, and yet they still charged ahead with Justice League. Before that, 2 movies were already lined up for release. David Ayer's Suicide Squad made good money but was trashed by both audiences and critics. The studio heavily interfered, twisting a dark, gritty film into a light-hearted comedy like Guardians of the Galaxy. On the other hand, Wonder Woman was a phenomenon. It was the first DCEU film that was praised across the board for its story, presentation, and box office performance. Behind all this, Snyder had started working on Justice League, but tragedy struck. His daughter Autumn died. Already under heavy studio interference and personal grief, Snyder left the project during a post-production, or the studio pushed him out. We still don't know for sure. Warner Bros. Brought in Joss Whedon, the man behind the first 2 Avengers films, to finish it. But this wasn't just editing. Whedon reshot major scenes, rewrote dialogue, added humor, and completely changed the tone. It became a different movie. The result was a disaster. The 2017 theatrical cut of Justice League felt disjointed. The tone shifted wildly, the CGI was rushed. Henry Cavill's digitally removed mustache became a meme and a symbol of everything that went wrong. It was obvious something bad had happened behind the scenes, and fans weren't buying it. After the Justice League failure, there were many leadership changes. Everyone made their own calls, but the common decision was to focus on standalone films and forget team-ups. Next came Aquaman, which was generally well-received and became the first billion-dollar DCEU film. Shazam was also well-received, but no one cared for Birds of Prey, and it flopped. Then the global lockdown hit in March 2020. The sequel to the most loved DCEU film, Wonder Woman 1984, was released simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max in December. It received mixed reviews and flopped. After Justice League's theatrical failure, something unexpected happened. Fans started demanding Zack Snyder's original cut. They didn't let it go. The hashtag Release the Snyder Cut movement took over social media. People dismissed it at first. Even Warner Brothers denied the cut existed, but over time the pressure built. Actors supported it publicly. Billboard ads went up. Charity campaigns were launched in Snyder's daughter's name. Eventually, Warner Brothers gave in, partly because they needed content for their new streaming platform, HBO Max. Snyder was given a budget to finish his version. In 2021, Zack Snyder's Justice League was released, 4 hours long with completed visual effects and restored character arcs. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Fans felt vindicated. For a moment, it looked like the Snyderverse might return. But that didn't happen. Instead, Warner Bros. Quietly stepped away. They shut down Snyder's future plans. They had no intention of following up with Justice League Part 2 or continuing his Elseworld vision. Despite the Snyder Cut's success, the studio was already looking elsewhere. That's when Dwayne Johnson stepped in. Dwayne Johnson had been attached to Black Adam for over a decade, but now he finally had momentum. He pitched Black Adam not as a one-off, but as a foundation for a new direction for DC. He positioned himself at the center, not Batman, not Superman, Black Adam. He wanted a darker tone, global stakes, and most importantly, control. He worked behind the scenes to bring back Henry Cavill's Superman. He insisted Cavill appear in the post-credit scene of Black Adam. The last time Cavill wore that cape was back in 2017. Fans were thrilled to see him. Cavill himself announced his return on Instagram.
I wanted to make it official that I am back as Superman. And the image you see on this post and what you saw in Black Adam are just a very small taste of things to come.
The Black Adam cameo was filmed, promoted, and used to tease a Superman comeback. But it wasn't greenlit by DC's new leadership. It was approved during a transition period, while the studio was still figuring out who would lead the future. The Rock basically tried to make DC revolve around him and his character. Black Adam released in October 2022. Despite the hype and promises, it underperformed. Critics were lukewarm. The box office didn't meet expectations. Internal reports surfaced saying Dwayne Johnson had pushed too hard behind the scenes, trying to shape the future of DC without full studio support. After its release, it became clear his vision wasn't moving forward either. Meanwhile, WB was undergoing massive changes. The Discovery merger meant new leadership, new priorities, and cost-cutting everywhere. Projects were canceled. Batgirl was shelved even after filming was done. DC had no clear leadership. The brand was falling apart. Then came James Gunn. After being fired from Marvel over old offensive tweets, Gunn was briefly a free agent. Warner Brothers quickly approached him to make a Superman movie, but he declined. Later, they gave him free rein to choose any DC property. Gunn chose The Suicide Squad. It wasn't a sequel to the 2016 film, but a soft reboot. He was given full creative freedom and a budget. He delivered a violent, R-rated, character-driven movie that was loved by critics and audiences alike. It didn't blow up at the box office, maybe because the DCEU was already a mess or due to its simultaneous streaming release. But it proved one thing: Gunn could handle ensemble casts, emotional arcs, and chaos with control. He followed it up with Peacemaker, a spin-off series starring John Cena, which became an unexpected hit. It balanced action, emotion, and character in a way that clicked with audiences. Up to this point, Gunn had a 100% success rate in comic book-based projects. Slowly, he became a trusted creative voice at DC. After becoming the creative head at DC Studios, Gunn said this about The Rock.
But there was a vacuum at the time, and a lot of people were trying to be as diplomatic as possible. They wanted to take on what they wanted to do with DC and were trying to force their way, and it just was never a part of the equation for David Zaslav, who was the head of WBD. So we came in, and that was really unfortunate. I'm like, this poor guy.
In late 2022, after Black Adam's failure, Warner Brothers announced that James Gunn and producer Peter Safran would co-lead DC Studios, not as directors, but as the creative heads of the entire DC universe. Gunn would handle the creative side, Safran the business side. This wasn't just a film deal, it was full control. They were tasked with building a long-term plan connecting films, TV, animation, and games into one shared universe. Gunn immediately began restructuring. He announced a new chapter, Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. The existing DCEU would end. Future projects like Aquaman 2 and The Flash would still release, but they wouldn't be part of the new continuity. Everything was getting a hard reboot. Cavill again posted on Instagram, this time announcing his departure, breaking fans' hearts. Ben Affleck's Batman was retired. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman was left in limbo. The Snyderverse was officially done. The new beginning would start with Superman, written and directed by Gunn himself. Not an origin story, but a fresh introduction to Superman's place in the world. David Corenswet was cast as Clark Kent, and Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, signaling a more optimistic and emotionally grounded tone. Behind the scenes, Gunn focused on building a solid creative foundation, not just hiring directors, but collaborating with writers' rooms to plan interconnected stories. He didn't want to chase trends or rush the universe. He wanted consistency, clarity, and patience. Story first. Now, the first movie in the new DCU, Superman, has released and is well received by both critics and audiences, but its box office performance is disappointing. 17 days into theaters, it's made just $522 million worldwide on a $225 million budget, with an estimated $125 million in marketing. That means it needs at least $600 million to break even. Given the current market and new releases, that seems unlikely. So, box office-wise, it'll be a flop for sure. Thanks for watching.